Wydad Athletic Club of Casablanca lose 4-1 to Juventus, effectively knocking them out of the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup, even though they have one match remaining against the Emirati champions, Al Ain. Actually, I don't know if they're champions this year. A disappointing result. Let's sort of recap what happened and also what this means for Wydad in the coming podcast. So yeah, welcome to another episode of the African Five Side Podcast. We're still in Kenya. Still, please, in 48 hours. I promise today, Monday, I will get a post up for the watch along, but please mark your calendars for 48 hours from now. I'd like to watch a match with you guys. I don't like to watch matches alone. So if you want to, if you're watching the match alone as well, just join, hop along the watch along that we're gonna have for Mamelodi Sundowns versus Fluminense. But yeah, without further ado, Wydad, they line up with the exact same lineup. Remember, against Manchester City, they played like a 5-2-3, let's call it, or a 5-4-1 or a 5-2-3, something like that, whatever you want to call it. And they line up with the exact same lineup, the exact same players in the exact same lineup. And when they do that, two matches in a row, I mean, I can understand on one point because the coach Ben Hashim is going to say we played well against Manchester City, so maybe he's going to want to run it back. But when you do it two matches in a row like this, what that also tells me is that he came into the Club World Cup clearly plotting, thinking, this is how we're going to play, right? This is the reason why he goes and picks up two central defenders, Myers and Guilherme Ferreira. This is the reason why he gets a center forward now, because he knows that he wants to play with five at the back. He knows he wants to play with the target man up top, and he bought the pieces for it. So basically, what they did was they tailor-made their transfer market, the mercato, simply for these two matches, and it's a little bit of a gamble because you're ultimately what you're doing is you're looking for a short-term result here. You're saying, okay, the only way we can really beat Manchester City and Juventus is to line up, I would say defensively. I would say that this was a defensive lineup. Line up with five defenders, make sure we shut off any spaces and counterattack effectively. And although I thought it worked okay against Manchester City, against Juventus, I think the main cause of the defeat was actually the tactics employed by Amin bin Hashim. Sorry, that's not the main. The main cause is that there's a big goal from quality, but one of the things that definitely didn't help was the tactics employed by Amin bin Hashim. So in the first 5 minutes, I thought they looked okay. They were pressing in the sort of mid-block. Tim Benkosi Lorch, by the way, who was very good again, nicks the ball off and gets a shot off from target in the first 5 minutes. So it kind of looked like he picked up where he left off. Remember, he was very, very impressive against Manchester City, one of the better players on the pitch. And it was one of those where we thought, and I remember the first time I remember seeing Lorch was in 2019 at the AFCON, when he scored that legendary goal against Egypt in the quarterfinals, I believe. That was one where in Cairo International Stadium, it's one of the most memorable goals that I've ever experienced live in my journalism career, simply because of the contrast between the noise and the rhythm and the vibrations of Cairo International Stadium before he scores, and then the complete dead silence. They're literally hearing the pin drop, the needle drop, the pin drop silence. I don't know how you say it in English. Immediately after he scored, the contrast was jarring, and it stuck with me really for the rest of my life. So I remember Lorch from then, and I always just thought he was an okay player. I didn't really understand why Valani Mokwena was pursuing him that much at Mamelodi Sundowns. I didn't think he played that well at Mamelodi Sundowns. And then the way he's been playing recently, not just at the Club World Cup, but even in a few matches of the Butola, the last three matches of the Butola, sort of, I see it now. I understand. Like when he's on form, when he's on his day, he's a very, very effective wing player. But immediately after that Lord's chance in the 6th minute, Juventus score a goal. And if you look at how they scored the goal, basically, so Wydad are playing like a 5-2-3, yeah? On occasion, especially in the first 30 minutes, it becomes a 6-2-2. Nordin Amrabat, who's supposed to be the right winger of the three, he drops back either as a defensive midfielder or even as a fullback. And you have 6 players across the back line, just the two midfielders, Mubarak and Zamraoui, And then you have Lorch and initially it was Obeng as a striker up top. Um, Now, the problem with that is that your entire center of gravity, your mass as a formation, sort of, especially when you're conceding possession, was too far down. It was near your box, and what you're essentially doing is conceding possession to Juventus. And Juventus, they were completely unbothered, and you can see this in the build up to the first goal, passing the ball around, through, around, maybe 30 passes without exaggerating, probably more, just completely unbothered in the Wydad end. You see, I don't mind playing the formation that they played, but you have to move the block up. They were just too deep in their zone. And essentially what happens is you have a player just, once they dribble past, they get the ball in front of your midfield. Once they dribble past those two midfielders, uh, that's pretty much all she wrote. You have one of the defenders has to step up, you have a run in behind, and then there's a deflected own goal. But that back line of five, sometimes six players is flat and it's too deep, and it's too flat. It's not staggered, and as a result, it's very easy to attack. And that was for me the main tactical problem of the first 30 minutes. We see the same thing when in the 16th minute when Juventus adds a second. Same thing. They pass the ball for maybe 20 passes, 25 passes. They dribble past the midfield again. This time, instead of a run in behind the defensive line, they kick the ball out to the 20-yard line. And this time it's a shot from outside of the box that goes in. And by the way, this Turkish kid, man, Yildiz, who he scored two and created a third. It was an own goal technically, but he pretty much had a hat trick. Man, he looks good. 20 years old. I guess he played for his first full season for Juve last season. Uh, yeah, he played 52 matches. I think he had 10 goals, but he looks like he's on the verge to break out. So definitely a name to look out for. He was so clinical in front of goal. So yeah, very, very good. So yeah, I that's the main really takeaway for the first 30 minutes is Ben Hashim gets it wrong. They were defending how he wanted. Lined them up like this. They were defending how he wanted with the players that he went out and signed for this specific tournament, and they were being surgically deconstructed by Juventus. Um, yeah, the good news for him is that Wydad pull back a goal in the 25th minute, and it's like unlike the Juventus goals, which were like surgically constructed. The Wydad goal was just throw in, win an aerial duel, win an aerial duel. The ball finds its way to Amrabat, and he's in a 2v2 versus situation. Two Juventus defenders, him and Lorch. And Lorch makes a run. Amrabat plays in a nice pass. Um, and Lorch with a beautiful chipped finish. Again, picking up where he left off. Immediately after that, we have the Wydad supporters started lighting smoke bombs and flares and stuff. So we have a 5-minute break, and that's where Ben Hashim sort of calls his team over. And because it's a hydration break plus a pyro break and a hydration break, and there's 5 minutes, and he starts talking to his team, and this is where you could see that they started modifying the instructions, because after they went down by 2 goals, you could see even his video analyst coming up to him. I think what they were explaining to him was that we have to push up a little bit. We cannot be this passive. We cannot sit back this deep and absorb this much pressure. And they look better immediately after that, immediately after the 30th minute. In fact, by the 36th minute, when you look at the statistics, they had 5-3 shots and 4-1 shots on target. So they had more shots on target, even though they were giving up a lot of possession. Anyways, not much happens prior to half. I think Juventus just creating more and more goal-scoring opportunities. We were lucky to only concede two until late in the second half. There was Colomwani had two clear chances. Yildiz had another chance. So yeah, at halftime, Ben Hesham brings on Walimu and Soma for Obang and Myers. Again, the block is much higher, but there isn't too much of a change. And in the 69th minute, Juventus add a third. And this one it's not as bad as the first two. The first two, I think, were real tactical faux pas. This one is just, Juventus wins some aerial duels in midfield. Rendel Colomwani, the striker, sort of drags his movement across to the left wing. He finds some space, he gets the ball, and then a run is made behind the Wydad defender, Guilherme Ferreira. 2 goals, actually, behind him. And he doesn't track the run of Yildiz. Yildiz cuts it back with a beautiful dribbling and again, practically scores a hat trick. But you brought in Guilherme Ferreira for this tournament, you know? You brought in Myers for this tournament. You brought in Somach for this tournament. And all of these players that they brought in, I think, have been very disappointing. The players that haven't been disappointing, Amrabat, who they also brought in, I guess, but he's been signed for a whole year, unlike some of those other players. So Amrabat has been good. Lorch has been impressive. Zemraoui in midfield, I thought, has been impressive as well. And then the fullbacks have been hit and miss. But some of these other players, again, that they brought specifically for this tournament, they haven't stepped up. And so I think some accountability has to be had, not necessarily with the coach, but whoever brought those players in, whether they're scouts or technical directors or sporting directors or transfer committees or whatever the case may be. Um, so yeah, then late in the second half, Ben Hashem switches to a 4-3-3. Um, he brings on Mailula for Zemraoui, and he plays Cassius Mailula in midfield, which I've never seen him play in midfield. I don't know if you guys have. Um, Seems like a little bit of a weird one. I thought he was more of a striker or maybe left winger. So yeah, they switched to 4-3-3. Doesn't really work either, and Juventus eventually add a fourth. So what can we draw from this? Like overall, I think this was the scoreline doesn't reflect, I think, the natural rhythm of play. I think Wydad were a lot better than the scoreline indicates. That's the first thing that we should mention. The second thing is the whole preparation for Wydad going into this Club World Cup has proven to be a failure. Yes, they're going up against Manchester City and Juventus, but ultimately, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh here. You targeted a bunch of signings for this tournament. They haven't played well. You set up a formation for this tournament to play against the big sides. Same thing. Didn't really work out tactically as well. Only like some players I thought are having a good tournament. The fans are obviously having a good tournament. Now, the only real consolation here is if in the last match they can beat El Ain, and they should be able to beat El Ain. They've been more competitive than El Ain. They lost 2-0 and 4-1 in this match. El Ain, I think, lost 6-0 and 5-1 or 6-0 and 5-0 or something like that. So, I mean, when you're playing those common opponents, that should indicate that Wydad is a little bit better than El Ain. And the reason why this match is so important is monetary reasons. If you can win that last match, you get the $2 million prize money. That's, two quality players for the Butola next season or um, the CAF Confederation Cup next season. Because from what I see, they still need a striker. I don't know if Samah is the answer. I don't know if Obeng is the answer. I don't think Mailula is the answer as a number 9. They need a target man. Maybe they need one more midfielder alongside Mubarak and Zamraoui. They have Amrabat, they have Lorch, and now they have a bunch of defenders, so they just need to figure out who the best defender is. But I think they should probably just go back to Hadkas and Boutouil. So I think they have a really good side, but they're just probably missing one or two players. If you win that last match against El Ain, again, that's enough for a transfer fee for 2 players going into the Butola in the fall. So overall, I think Wydad fans will be disappointed, especially to have lost 4-1. Again, I don't think that's fair, judging by the run of play. But overall, if you're gonna hold anybody accountable, because that's the thing about Wydad. We didn't really hold anybody accountable all year. We didn't hold Roulani Mokwena accountable because, again, he's building up this squad, and fair enough, he has to buy players. Everybody's new. It's his first season in a new country, in a new context. Same thing. We didn't really hold the president of the club, Hisham Eitmemna, who's the new president, accountable because, same thing, it's his first season. I think we all liked the Roulani hire. It was like outside of the box. It showed that he was brave. But this, you had time to prepare for this. You had a lot of time to prepare for this. You had the resources to prepare for this. And ultimately, they haven't been catastrophic, don't get me wrong, but they've been subpar. And I think there should be some accountability for that, and some accounting needs to be held for that. So yeah, really, I think what's ultimately going to judge if this has been a positive or a negative participation in this tournament is that last match against El Ain. A victory can sort of save face. A loss would, in North Africa, nobody has patience anyways, but a loss I think would be not catastrophic, but would be very, very tough for the current boarding coach. Anyways, we'll leave it there for now. Today we have Al Ahly, I believe. Need to beat Porto. I really want 2 African sides to make it out of the group stages, but so far it's not looking good. But maybe Al Ahly and maybe Mamelodi Sundowns, I think those are still our, maybe Esperance as well. The other 3 teams, hopefully two out of the 3 teams can get very much needed big wins in the final match day of the Club World Cup. So let's keep it locked in again. If you're just watching the match by yourself on Wednesday, let's watch it together. That would be really cool. I'd like to test these watch alongs, see if it's something that you guys would like or not. But if not, then just keep it locked in, subscribe, like, comment, the usual, the works. Speak to you all very soon, and peace.